Hey guys, I'm Fuller.
I'm Jonah.
This is Off the Line. This week, I think we're going to get into not a lot of Premier League, more Champions League and MLS. There's a little bit of a break right now. Kick things off. I want to know how you're feeling about what happened at the Etihad last week.
The unholy acts.
Do you need to talk to anybody? Are you okay?
I think I've talked myself through it. Thankfully, we didn't have to talk about it last weekend. So I think that I honestly, I think my take would have been different had I talked about this game last weekend. But I've had some time to sit and think about it. And there's obviously just like players that don't fit this system at all.
Yeah.
Marcus Alonso would be one of them.
It's crazy to see his. I wouldn't say it's a decline because he's such a good left back, but he just doesn't fit that system really.
Well, he's never like played like
as
he's
a
never
traditional left.
Yeah,
back,
he's never
as a left
succeeded
wing back.
as a left back. He was a left back at Sunderland, didn't work out. He was a left back at Bolton, didn't work out. Only his career really only took off when he started playing in that wing back role for Fiorentina. So he never, when he was playing well for Chelsea, he wasn't offering them anything defensively as that wing back. So I don't think it was realistic to expect him just to become a lockdown top four quality left back in over one off season. So he doesn't fit the system. I would be okay with him going. I still question playing in N'Golo Kanté where he's playing, even though he is like being effective in that role. I just don't think you take like the best player in that position and then play him in a different position.
Win a World Cup there this summer.
I question the effectiveness of a player like Jorginho in not only in Chelsea's system but just like in the Premier League as a whole. I know this is very like stereotypical, like kind of like a stereotype of the Italian league, but it's so tactical. Like teams don't play pressing systems in the Serie A. Like you get the ball, you have time to receive it, look around, find your pass, and take it. That's just not something that Premier League
used to.
Yeah, that's not something that Premier League players are afforded. So I question how effective he would be in a Premier League team, being used in that way rather. So I have questions like that. But I do think a lot of this hangs on Sarri. I think his stubbornness in playing his system, his unwillingness to adapt, like Antonio Conte was stuck in his ways, but he was always willing to tinker and to adapt. His lack of rotation. But like the thing is like Chelsea brought Maurizio Sarri in to play this style.
Yeah.
He has Higuain now. But like he has Jorginho. But like how many of these players are his players? I think that the situation that he's found himself in roster-wise isn't necessarily his fault. Like it's more of an indictment on Chelsea's recruiting over the past.
It's like three different managers' collection of players who are all brought in. Mourinho brought certain players in for certain reasons. Conte brought certain players in for certain reasons. Those guys are still there.
Right.
And it's just unfortunate, I think, about Roman Abramovich's way he runs Chelsea. Is you have all these players who brought in to do one thing for one manager 5 years ago, and they're still there.
And I mean, you think that he had players like, obviously he still has Jorginho now, but he had players like Hamsik, Allen in his midfield at Napoli, and it's not. I don't necessarily think it's his fault that he's left with players like Ross Barkley and on loan Mateo Kovacic, who I honestly thought would be a lot better than he's proved to be this season.
I think he had a lot of hype coming in Premier League,
Yeah.
especially. I don't know. I don't want to say he was frozen out of Real Madrid, but there were limited options for him there.
Right.
And he's just very, very high caliber player.
So the fact that he's trying to have to like mix time between them, I don't necessarily think that's his fault. They're not players that fit his style. They're not similar players to like a Marek Hamsik or an Allen or even like a Callahan who would come in and play centrally sometimes for Napoli. So I think that if you brought Sarri in to make Chelsea play a certain style of football, he needs to be given time. But I think it's just really worrying signs, the messages he's been sending out in his press conferences, and just like almost palpable dissonance you can feel between the players and him, like
Yeah.
in the current situation.
Well, that was a question I wanted to ask you. Do you think Sarri can make it till the end of the season? Do you think there's any reason Roman Abramovich will fire him?
Roman Abramovich is, and it's kind of similar with a lot of the big six clubs that you see now, but he's always been a guy where once top four is like mathematically not possible, and it'll be kind of tricky if we linger in the Europa League longer and longer, if it'll end up being like a United type scenario.
True.
But I think that once top four is not mathematically possible, the trigger would be pulled. But I think that if things continue the way they are, but he manages to either sneak into the top four or win Europa League, somehow end up in Champions League next season, I don't see why you don't keep him on and back
Let
him
build
more.
a roster.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, it was never going to happen overnight. And, like, he brought in one player that he wanted in Jorginho, and he got another one in on loan in January. So you have to question how much they've backed him for wanting him to bring in and bring that Sarri brand of football. So if they can somehow end up in the Champions League next year, I don't see why they would get rid of him, even if it doesn't look super promising at the season's end.
So I don't want to cut to the Champions League just yet, but United lost Anthony Martial, Jesse Lingard. City is now a top 1 point or whatever in the Prem until United play Liverpool. Is that you think that's a boon for Liverpool? Do you think they're going to make a speedy recovery? I mean, I don't know. I'm just thinking now. Though that's two big holes for Manchester United.
Right.
And we talked about how big Kane and Dele were to Tottenham. I wouldn't say it's of that importance, but looking at Chelsea, for example, I mean, if United were going to drop points at any time, it's going to be right now. Do you see these injuries, and United has a really congested schedule coming up?
Right.
Do you see that as like a backdoor for Chelsea getting in there at the expense of United?
I don't like Chelsea bounced back, and they had like 70% possession against Malmo this past midweek in the Europa League. So they bounce back as good as they can, but I still am not confident in Chelsea being able to consistently get results going into the end of the season. Certainly not as much as I would Manchester United, even without Rashford and without Lingard. I do think in the Liverpool game specifically, I would really question whether they'll be able to come out with. Did you say it's at Anfield?
No, I think it's let's look it up.
I don't know. Either way, I just think it's going to be really difficult to break Liverpool down using wide players like Juan Mata. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's just never where
be
they've
at home.
been super effective. But I'm pretty sure Lingard and Martial are both going to miss that game, right?
Yep.
Is it even like up in the air, or is it?
Let's see. So their injury is 3 weeks to a month. And that was at like Tuesday.
Mhm.
So week and a half, 2 weeks.
Yeah, one of them could easily be back. Keep in mind that even if you do end up playing players like a Juan Mata out wide or something like that, like Pogba's coming into form. He had I think he had a super
He had a very
unfortunate
frustrating game.
lapse in judgment, against PSG, which we'll get into later.
Yeah.
But like the way he's been playing since Solskjaer took over, like
Unreal.
yeah, him and Rashford kind of have the ability to like
Turn the game on its
turn
head.
the game on. Yeah, within 20 seconds,
Yeah.
like out of nothing almost. So all hope wouldn't be completely lost, but if Liverpool are like in any sort of form and you guys are missing both of those players, I would find it really hard for United to come out with a result.
Yeah.
Maybe a tie, but like definitely not a win.
Last one. I didn't put this one in the notes because I wanted your honest opinion on it. FA Cup tie Monday. United Chelsea. Who's coming out on top?
I mean, there's like zero reason for me to put any money on Chelsea, so my gut would be United, absolutely.
I'd probably say United. I'd say Chelsea. Like, if you want to see how Solskjaer is going to go against Liverpool, it's probably how he's going to line up against Chelsea. Even though Chelsea and Liverpool are two different teams, both big games, I think he's going to go for, I don't know, I want to say like a guns blazing lineup. Both one. I mean, he's like you said, 20 seconds is all it takes for Pogba to link up with Rashford to sneak one in. I mean, we saw it twice last year. That's all it took.
Well,
Rashford had 2 quick goals, and that was it. That was game.
and I know this is another kind of cliche that you can almost say about any team, but like the way that Chelsea, and I know that you guys have recently been finding success on the flanks with Lingard and with Martial, but I still feel like United and Chelsea both win games by dominating the midfield, and like
I think United's
I think
midfield is
unquestionably
way better than
United's win.
Liverpool's.
Exactly, I think.
Ander Herrera is.
Oh no, I was talking about the Chelsea tie.
Oh,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
unquestionably
Yeah.
United's midfield dominates Chelsea's midfield, which is
Absolutely.
going to make it like damn near impossible for Chelsea to
I was gonna
come
say
out with a comfortable win.
my same point applies. I think Ander Herrera is one of the best big game performers in the league, and I expect a very big game out of him. Ever since he marked Eden Hazard out of the Chelsea game 2 years ago, was it? We had a goal and assist. Like he's always been in the lineups for big games. I think
Right.
every manager's come to rely on him. And I honestly like Pogba's great. Matic is getting old. He's not as good as he was last year. But I think Ander Herrera really holds that midfield together sometimes. He does all the dirty work that people
Unsung,
don't like.
yeah,
No one really
exactly.
notices. All right, let's get on to the Champions League. I think we'll start off with, I don't know. I mean, we can start with United just because that was the
already.
big, I'd say, yeah, the big game this time. 2-0. It was really like, the ref was on some ass.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm being honest, like, did you watch the game?
Yeah.
Dude, there was like 4 cards within
How
25
Kimpembe
minutes.
did not get that second yellow? Like,
And I'll even cop to Ashley Young deserved a red for pushing Di Maria off the pitch. Like, 100%, like, 2 reds should be given out. Pogba, like, unfortunate, like, the ref was just very card happy.
well, the
It
thing
really
about
upset me.
the thing about the Pogba for me, like, if I'm remembering correctly, is it seemed like a situation where the ref should have like stomped it out instead
Yeah.
of letting it escalate to that point. Like Pogba, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like it
Yeah.
felt like he had almost lost control,
Yeah.
and that's why he was like
Just, like, I don't get it.
dishing cards out everywhere.
He was just going for. He had a card in like the 3rd minute out. Like, not Pogba, just I think it was like Kimpembe might have had a card in the 3rd or 4th minute.
Yeah,
And you're right, like how Kimpembe is still in the game, it just blows my mind. But I mean,
was it Martial or Rashford that he like pulled back? Like you know the call I'm talking about, the no call. He was clear through on goal, pulled him back by the shoulder,
that was
brought
Martial.
him down, called the foul.
I think it was Martial.
But didn't
no,
yellow card
no
him
card.
because I think it was within the first like 20 minutes or something. Didn't want to
Yeah.
send a player off within the
Yeah,
first
I
20
remember that.
minutes.
And then there was another foul like 4 minutes before he scores. And I think if Kimpembe's off, I mean, obviously that's a game changer, but that changes how Paris set up. I don't think maybe Mbappe gets that goal, and that's a hell of a goal by Mbappe. He's so fast. It just blows my mind. But going back to Paris, I mean, I'll still hold out hope. I mean, Paris kind of have a little fortress set up there. It's really hard to get results there for pretty much any team. But, I don't know. Who knows?
Stranger things have happened.
I don't know. I think Ollie's trying to build his case
PSG
for
have
manager.
blown far bigger than 2-0 leads.
That was literally my
What
thought.
was it, 4-5-1 or something
Yeah,
that they
was
blew?
it Barca?
Yeah, 4-0, 5-1, something like that. They blew that lead 2 years ago.
Then Roma did it to Barca last year.
Yep.
God, that's so sick. Do you think that there's a standard for Solskjaer to get the job? Do you think there's a criteria he needs to hit or like a trophy he needs to win?
If there was, I definitely don't think it has anything to do with the Champions League. I found that like a very tired storyline. Like going into the game and moving out of the game was this is the test of whether he gets the job. I think
Arsenal and Tottenham were already two very big tests.
Him playing PSG is the farthest thing from a test. I think.
PSG are not a league opponent. They're not someone we're gonna have to stack up against next season or potentially later on in an FA Cup tie.
And like United is like full of talented players, but like they're nowhere like De Gea, Pogba. Who else gets into the PSG's team from United? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you go through the list, like there are players that definitely could come off the bench and do a job, but like I don't think Martial gets in. I don't think Rashford gets in. Like, none of the front three. Midfield, Pogba. That's probably about it. Defense,
maybe Herrera.
defense, I don't think anybody makes it in either. So you gotta, like, when you put it into that perspective, like, this was never a test as to whether Solskjaer was going to get the job.
And it was always nice to think that, okay, Neymar and Cavani are both going to be out. Maybe we can muster something. But it just kind of shows that, one, United's still work in progress. And two, for PSG, it shows that they can win games without 2 of the 3. You know, Mbappe led the line very
Di Maria
well.
was insane.
Di Maria
like,
had a point to prove.
Mbappe's run for the
game.
goal was incredible, but like that pass was
pinpoint
like
ball,
out
yeah.
of this world. Made that from
Really
like
made me
40
mad.
yards away.
But like, I love Mbappe. One of my favorite players. I can't be mad, but like, kind of mad. Did you watch the Roma Porto game?
No.
Did not. I was worked, busy week, a lot going on, school. I caught the highlights of the Tottenham Dortmund game.
Mhm.
I'll be honest with you, I boofed this call in December.
Mhm.
I said that Jadon Sancho, he was gonna do something.
Did the opposite of that. He had like a really quiet
Yeah.
game from what I heard.
Yeah.
Um,
go ahead.
I just know from what I heard and read that apparently it was a
A
quote
sun
unquote
show
yeah, well, in a tactical masterclass, if you will.
by Mauricio Pochettino.
Yeah, Mauricio Pochettino played a back three and Jan Vertonghen, yet Jan Vertonghen was somehow not one of those back three. Jan Vertonghen was playing like left wing back,
Nice.
like a 32-year-old center back out here on the wing back, and he provided apparently across. I think he had an assist like across from the left wing.
You think he's twerking for that United job right now?
I think he'd be much more interested in the Madrid job. I think he's getting quickly very tired of the Premier League.
Do you think who? I guess going back to United, I don't want to go back to him, but who do you think if Solskjaer is in the race, who is he in the race with?
Oh, I still very much think it's Poch.
Do you still think Poch has a shot at getting United gig?
Yeah, but I think that if he gets 2 phone calls, one from Manchester
Madrid,
and one
one
from
from
Madrid, he's
United.
going to Madrid, unquestionably.
You think Zidane's still in the running?
I just find it so funny that Zidane's like randomly being like
Yeah.
the Chelsea job ever since we got smacked 6-0. Like, there's nothing appealing about the Chelsea job.
I guess
for
everyone
Zidane
thinks
for me.
Zidane just wants to come to a work in progress
Yeah.
and turn it around and like.
I would love for Zidane to come to Chelsea. Maybe that's the only reason Hazard would ever stay.
Yeah.
I just find it funny that he's linked with every single big job anytime one is under question.
Well, go ahead.
In the Premier League, he's just been linked with the United
Every
job.
job,
He was
yeah.
semi-linked with the Arsenal job, like, before Emery was announced. Like,
My problem with like Zinedine Zidane, I guess, as a coach, is that he walked into just a phenomenal Real Madrid team, and it was a lot of the same criticism people had of Pep Guardiola when he was at Barcelona, had never gone anywhere else, and like that's great that he won 3 Champions Leagues with Real Madrid in a row, with Cristiano Ronaldo, Luka Modric, Sergio Ramos,
and with a club where,
like,
he's such a huge part of that club's, like,
Yes.
modern-day fabric.
Yes, he had the backing to do. Oh, I mean, I wouldn't say he had the backing to do whatever he wanted, but he could get pretty much whatever player. And he very much understood the Madrid culture and all that jazz. But I just don't know if.
You're not the only one. Like, that's not that uncommon of
Yeah, no,
people
I mean, I'm sure.
kind of wondering, like, where he would stand at a different club.
Yeah.
Um,
So, moving on. Oh, yeah, we can talk about Madrid Ajax. The only point I want to make is Ajax fans were booing out front of the Madrid hotel at 3
Wilding
a.m., playing techno.
it's before the
shooting
game, right?
fireworks, yeah, night before the game. In Madrid, hit him with that 2-1 in the Netherlands, like, just real nice. This week, I'll do the 3, like, smaller games, and then we'll get to the big one. Barca, Lyon, this could be pretty exciting. Lyon are just, I don't know, a fun French team. I don't really know a lot about them. I know they have a lot of pace, I know they have a lot of flair. And I mean, Barcelona. So
Right.
Be a nice little game. Juve at Atletico. Initially, when this game was announced, I thought this was going to be a really big tie. For some reason, I've kind of cooled off that.
Yeah.
I'm more warmed up to the last game we're going to talk about. I just think it's going to be a real defensive possession battle. They're not the same team, but they kind of have, like, similar tactics almost. I don't want to say, like, the same tactics, but very, very defensive minded, grind it out, get a couple.
They have, like, a similar
yeah.
identity, yeah.
City at Schalke. City's gonna win that. I mean, Schalke are just like going through it right now.
Yeah.
They're not
They're
doing
nice.
too well, but it'll be nice to see Weston McKennie playing. Oh, hopefully playing against Manchester City, and I don't know. I always feel like it's good for those players to get a test of what playing against what top talent in the Premier, like
And it's just a good way to get put on display. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what if he did some cool like hat trick?
Or just like scored a goal. Hit one for dad real quick.
All right, so last game is Bayern Liverpool. In that game,
So interesting.
cracker,
to me.
dude, gonna be a cracker.
Just because like it was just brought to my attention within the past week that like Virgil van Dijk is suspended for this game.
I have no idea.
So like you have Joel Matip and Dejan Lovren, I guess. Because you don't have Van Dijk, you don't have Joe Gomez. You still don't have Trent Alexander-Arnold either. Like this looked
They
like
just sent
such a
Nathaniel Klein out.
Yeah, this looked like
Yeah.
such a good draw for Liverpool when it happened because you think about Bayern's team like Boateng losing his legs, Hummels
Oh,
like
man.
certifiably has no legs anymore.
Yeah.
Like this looked like a perfect matchup, and now like you have to really wonder
They're gonna get hit on the counter.
exactly like Bayern is never a team where you're going to be surprised if they score 3 or 4 goals in a game.
Yeah. Robert Lewandowski is, I mean, besides Messi and Ronaldo, I want to say he has the most Champions League goals, like, out of any current active player. I mean,
Yeah.
the dude is a freak of
machine.
nature in the box. Like, do not count him out. You got Thomas Mueller, you got James, like, they could turn that game upside down real quick.
A stat, like, I guess if I had thought about it, I would have been like, oh, yeah, obviously. But I didn't realize, like, the last time Lewandowski was in a Champions League final was at Dortmund. Like, he went to Bayern, like, the perennial Champions League, competitor out of the Bundesliga. And I just heard that as a stat, like, hasn't been to a final since he was in there with Dortmund, and I think it was 2013.
I was going to say it hasn't really been smooth sailing, I guess, since Pep left. I mean, they've won the league, like, what, every year since, but, like, the Champions League, they haven't really done that great. They haven't been to a final, like you said.
And they haven't been to a semi since Pep left.
And I would say they were arguably better than some of those Juve teams that made it, like, 4 or 5 years ago. Like the one with Pogba, where Pogba made it to the final, I would have said that Bayern Munich
Barcelona
team was better.
smacked them, didn't they?
Yeah, that was, like,
4-1.
I think that was maybe Xavi's last. Like,
Yeah.
Xavi. I think it was like Rakitic and Iniesta.
Oh man, I remember. I worked that day in Bowling
I
Green.
watched that.
I ignored the result all
down.
day. Went home and watched the replay at like 11:30 when I got off.
Yeah. So Bayern Munich, like, going through it, especially because they play in Germany.
I just find, like, it was always going to be an interesting game. You know, like it was always going to be one that you would want to watch. But I just find like some of the storylines moving into it like far more intriguing.
I know, especially because they play United Sunday.
Spicy.
So, if you're up a goal in the 60th, do you take Salah out? Do you give him a little extra time off?
I
Or
think
you pull
I
for
think
the
in
full
Liverpool's
90?
current situation, Klopp absolutely does do that.
Yeah.
I think like as much as he wants to play the calm, cool, collected, I think that like
He's a little bugging
he's
right
feeling
now.
yeah, absolutely.
Dude, what if this is the start of the collapse? Like, what if they draw United or something, City stay ahead,
I think
knockout Champions League?
it could definitely look that way coming out of this upcoming weekend,
No,
but
no.
I think that if they do boof the title, I think
The
that
memes will be
the
amazing.
collapse, the collapse will have been looked at as starting like 2 weeks ago when they had or 3 weeks ago now.
the
They had the
7-point
opportunity to
lead.
go 7 points ahead
Yeah.
and blew it, and then within like a week,
Did you ever see that picture Kyle Walker put up on Twitter?
no.
Have you ever seen the picture of Harry Maguire talking to the girls, like, at the World Cup?
No.
Dude, right.
Oh no!
Yeah.
You did. You sent it to me.
Yeah, it was like, so then they thought they were going to go 7 points clear. God, dude. Yeah, I really like this title race. I'm really glad United's kind of out of it so I can enjoy it more than I should. I just like watching both teams lose points.
Yeah.
Like, I guess at the end of the day, like, I shouldn't have a preference, but, like,
You're more excited to see who loses than to see who wins.
I really want Liverpool to lose the title. Like,
It's so crazy that you.
like,
I mean, like, I guess it makes sense for your
gotta, like,
perspective.
City have never, like, been a rival to United until, like, 2009.
Right, but like
Long
your
term,
mortal
like,
enemy is their fan.
Oh, I know, like, scumbag Gareth, bandwagon Gareth, like, I would rather,
I
like,
like UK basketball, but Alabama football, Gareth.
Yeah, like I would understand it. I'm okay. Like Manchester City have won a title. Like if Liverpool win a title, that is just like as a United fan, that's
Unacceptable.
it's even farther down. Like there's a video I saw the other day of this man watching the guy in a fucking United jersey watching the 2012 Manchester City QPR game as it's happening.
Aguero.
Dude, and he has a cup in his hand and he just spikes it on the ground, dude. Like that's how I would feel if Liverpool won the title. Like I'd be so mad. Man. Oh, dude, like Liverpool never winning a Premier League title is like the greatest
How you
banter
sustain
piece
life.
ever. Like you've never won a Premier League. Like I mean, at least like City, like Blackburn Rovers have one.
An entire like internet troll culture will die when Liverpool
Exactly.
wins the title.
Like David De Gea was born, came to the Premier League, and won a Premier League title before Liverpool won a Premier League. That's
Does that
facts.
make you happy?
That's facts. Like quick maths. Moving on, we can stop the Liverpool slander. We can go into the MLS. I'll let you hit that good.
Yeah. 2 weeks out.
I'm really excited. I've never watched I always say I'm going to try to watch the MLS, and I end up just like
It's gonna be
kicking it with
relatively
the
spicy.
USL.
It's gonna be spicy. So we got, of course, the two in the East, two in the West. We'll start off in the East, per usual, with the New York Red Bulls. Not a ton of movement in the offseason. Obviously, like, Tyler Adams got his move. We've talked about that to death. He's in Leipzig now. Other than that, like, you had Aurelien Collin moving to Philadelphia Union. I feel like he's at a new MLS club. He's a French center back. I feel like he's at a new MLS club every single season. So I was looking at it. He's only like 31, 32 years old. This is going to be his 9th club in his career.
In the MLS or just like in general?
In general.
Okay.
I think this is like his 4th or 5th MLS team. But it's not necessarily a surprise that he moves, like I said, 31, 32 years old. And you have like Aaron Long, U.S. national team captain in their last friendly, and Tim Parker, both like forming one of the best center back partnerships we've seen in the MLS last season. And both of them are, I believe, under the age of 25. So not necessarily surprising to see him move. Him moving doesn't necessarily scare me if those two stay healthy. Even with the loss of Tyler Adams, you still have super dynamic players in the midfield like Sean Davis, definitely more so Alejandro Romero, and then Daniel Royer. I love watching Daniel Royer. He scores goals that remind me of like Marko Arnautovic, like very similar style goals. So he's always really fun to watch.
Sharko.
So you have really dynamic players surrounding the like 33, 34-year-old Bradley Wright Phillips at this point, which like even at his age showed no signs of slowing down last season. Still had a really good season last year. So obviously, let's see. Chris Armas is going to be having his first full season. But he did really well taking over from Jesse Marsch after he left towards the beginning of last season. So I think definitely it could only go up from there. I definitely still peg them as an MLS playoff team. So yeah, I think despite having not made a ton of moves, they still look like they're in a really good position moving into next season. Moving away from there, a team that I definitely cannot say the same thing about would be Orlando City. Somewhat surprisingly, they're still with James O'Connor. We're very familiar with him from Louisville City, but like James O'Connor went into an absolute like shit show at Orlando last season, and it somehow only managed to get worse when he took over. Yeah. So arguably not necessarily his fault. I can't fault the club for like giving a coach a full season with a preseason to like really show what he can do, because that club was already fighting fires by the time that they hired him.
Yeah.
But I just like, if I was an Orlando City fan, like I wouldn't feel it's inspired coming into this upcoming season, because you see like. Saw James O'Connor had absolutely zero effect on the squad when he took over last season. And then, I don't know, they're just still sticking with their same mold that they've had since they joined the MLS of, like, being predominantly a team that pulls in from the USL. Like, they stole Ranjit Singh, Kyle Smith from Louisville City this past year. And I think in that respect, as a Louisville City fan, that's exciting for me, but, like, that's a mold that they've been using for like 3 or 4 seasons
worked
now,
at all for
and
them.
it's never brought them any sort of consistency. They're still using the let's pull in from USL and then let's bring in 1 or 2 big names. It was Kaká at first. Now it's let's see, Dom Dwyer and Sasha Kleshchin. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They have 1 or 2 really big names and then like a drastic drop off in talent and in wages. It's just a model that hasn't been successful for them. I don't see why it would be any different this season. So that's where I kind of stand on Orlando. Moving into the West, though, San Jose, probably perennially one of the, well, not perennially, like they were a huge team in MLS in its inception. They were like the big rivals to LA Galaxy, but like since I've been heavily following MLS, they've been not a good team at all. But a lot of San Jose fans like had a lot of hope when they brought in Matias Almeida from Guadalajara. MLS fans that aren't familiar with him, like he was coach of Guadalajara when they knocked New York Red Bulls out of the CONCACAF Champions League 2 seasons ago now, I think it was. He found a lot of success with Guadalajara, and I always just assumed they were a big club in Mexico because I've heard the name. I know that they have a big fan base, but apparently they operate on one of the smaller budgets, which is similar to San Jose's situation in the MLS. They don't spend a lot of money, so there was a lot of hope there bringing him in. He just like had a really big dud of a season. They still have like exciting young players. You have Jackson Ewell, U.S. under 21, 23 maybe. You have Nick Lima, arguably a future right back, looked a lot better in his friendlies the past 2 games than DeAndre Yedlin's looked for the U.S. in the past year. A lot of people wondering how big he'll factor into Berhalter's system. So you have these exciting players. I refuse to call Tommy Thompson an exciting young player anymore. I've been hearing about this kid for like 3 or 4 years, and he's
time to show it.
Yeah, he's never done anything for me. He's still there. And then like Wondolowski's 33, 34 years old now, but like he's the second time all leading goal scorer for the MLS. He's got like,
that's so
I have it here. This is like the most outrageous ratio to me. He has 278 goals in 327 games. Like, how insane. That's his MLS goal scoring record.
You bullying.
I'm not. And he's scored double-digit goals every year since 2010, and probably further back than that. The website I was looking at only went back to 2010. But he's scored double-digit goals every single season since then.
Wondolowski?
Yeah, like, people will only...
The dude that plays left back sometimes?
No.
I just remember at one point there was a version of FIFA where he was like a right back or a left back.
Oh, because he was like on the MLS All-Star team.
Yeah.
That's probably where they pigeonholed him in.
Yeah, something stupid like that.
No, but people that aren't like super familiar with the MLS, haven't been following it for the past decade, they're going to always associate him as this like
old dude.
Old, crappy striker that blew it against Belgium. And I just think that's incredibly unfair for like one of the best strikers that MLS has ever seen. So... always going to love to watch him. Going to love to watch some of the young players, especially Nick Lima. Really excited to follow him this upcoming season. But again, don't necessarily have super high hopes. They haven't made a bunch of changes, and Almeida definitely underwhelmed in his first season. Didn't show a lot that it's going to change next season.
Solid.
But yeah, I just love talking about Wando when I can.
Yeah,
because
like rubbing one out to
you know me, I love backing up like a player that a lot of people hate.
You
like,
backing up some mid.
That's why I love Marwan Fellaini till I die.
You're gonna work like
that's my one per show, I guess.
Wait. Like now that he's gone to China, like
I'm gonna have to become a fan.
No, you're gonna forget about him. Like
there's no way,
dude. Let's get Fellaini jerseys.
I'm into it.
Dude, we can never get a pro player on the show. Like it has to be Fellaini.
We'll wrap up our MLS coverage in Seattle, who I think like could, I don't know. I don't necessarily predict a huge year from them, but I think this year could be very telling. Just because when you look at it long term, they haven't been around a super long time. Like, and they haven't dominated the MLS really since. Like peak Clint Dempsey, which was probably like 2 or 3 seasons ago now. Yeah,
I guess like 2006. 2016, that was a little stupid.
Yeah.
2006 was more than
So-
2 3 years ago.
They're not the dominant force in the MLS anymore. I guess they never really were, but they were a huge.
When I first got into the MLS, they were the biggest team.
Yeah.
By far. Because of Clint Dempsey.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So haven't really been able to dominate the MLS since Dempsey left. I mean, they brought in Raul Ruidiaz out of Liga MX. He's really, really good. He scored 10 goals and 1 assist in 14 matches. He joined mid-season after the Liga MX season had ended. So 14 matches, scored 10 goals, 1 assist. Very, very good. Looks like a good striker. Looks like he will be a solid replacement that, like I said, that the club's really needed since they had peak Dempsey. But you have people leaving like Osvaldo Alonso. Went to Minnesota United. Talked about that when we previewed them. So you have people like them either getting too old or being phased out, and then you have your best defenders are Chad Marshall, 34 years old, Roman Torres, 32 years old. So this problem that kind of started when Dempsey got out of his peak is starting to continue with other players in their roster. So that's why I think this could be such a defining year for them, just to show I think it's huge for them to kind of look at themselves and see where does Seattle sees themselves long term. Because this upcoming season is definitely going to be where they need to start kind of stamping a new identity on them and see where they're going to be moving forward, because you can't keep relying on aging players that are going to eventually leave.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Seattle, I don't know.
Also,
go ahead.
No, you
They're usually playoff perennials, I feel like, but I don't know. I feel like there's more active teams now that are doing more things. The last time I heard about Seattle Sounders doing anything cool was when Jordan Morris was supposed to be popping.
Yeah.
He went there and nothing ever happened.
Not popping. Yeah. I mean, he was out all season last year with I think it was ACL or MCL or something like that. But anyway, he definitely hasn't lived up to the hype in any way, shape, or form. I don't think he's been in the U.S. national team in well over 18 months now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
So it hadn't gone well for him. But I also just kind of feel like you said, they always do manage to find themselves in the playoffs. It's not like everything's gone disastrously for them.
When you find yourself in the playoffs every year, it's not about making the playoffs every year. It's about doing something more than that.
Right.
If you're a small club, if you're a San Jose Earthquakes and you can find yourself in the playoffs every year for 3 or 4 years, that's great. That exceeds expectations. But when you're the Sounders, it's more than that. You gotta
Absolutely.
win.
And part of me, I don't want to criticize him because he did a great job taking over and he's continued to get them in the playoffs. But when Siggy Schmidt left in 2016, R.I.P. Siggy Schmidt, and Brian Smetcher took over, everybody was really surprised with how well he did in that second half of the season. That was the season he took them all the way and won them the final. So even though that was 2016, two seasons have passed since then, part of me kind of wonders how much is Brian Schmetzer still kind of riding that wave of, oh wow, you were supposed to be an interim guy and then you won us the title, so we gave you the full-time job. How much is he still riding that wave of success?
Yeah.
Because he's never seen literally the past 3 seasons, Seattle's found themselves in the playoffs by being horrible the first third of the season and then just catching fire the second half of the season. So I don't know.
I guess we'll see.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
Do you have anything to say, wrap up at the end?
I think that's about it.
Final thoughts? Guess that's it. We will see you all next week. This has been Off the Line. I'm Fuller.
I'm Jonah.
Make sure to subscribe, all that good stuff, and we will see you next week.